At what point are we going to say enough is enough? This is every single day now that we have another story of a horrific crime allegedly committed by a migrant. Today's story, a court has heard that a small boat migrant, quote, raped a woman in the heart of London after threatening her through a translation app. This is absolutely shocking. But before I tell you the details of what the court has heard this week, let's remind ourselves of the past few days. What was the story yesterday? Did we have another ridiculous story of a crime committed by a migrant? Yes, of course. Afghan asylum seeker jailed for brutal rape of a vulnerable teenage girl in a Scottish town. What was it the day before? Well, we found out that in Derby, a failed asylum seeker, quote, randomly stabbed a father of three in a bank queue whilst he was FaceTiming his friend. Didn't even know the guy, didn't even get in an argument with him, just walked into a bank, was only in there for 22 seconds, stabbed a guy and left. What was it before that? Oh yes, that horrific triple stabbing that took place in Hillingdon in Uxbridge, where a 49-year-old dog walker was brutally murdered. The suspect who has been charged, not yet found guilty, of course, but the suspect who has been charged is an Afghan migrant. So let's go to today's story. It's hard to keep up with them all, honestly, because there are so many. But today's story is an Egyptian man. This guy here has been in court after he allegedly raped a woman at Charing Cross station after threatening her via a translation app because he couldn't speak English. I've just absolutely had enough of it. When is it going to end? Of course, this man has not been found guilty yet. He is remanded in custody, but I will tell you the details of what the court has heard. But I'm sick of hearing another story every single day about another alleged crime. There is clearly a trend here, and I do not think that the women in this country, and also the men in this country, we've spoken about some stabbings of men in the previous stories over the past few days. I don't think anybody is safe in this country anymore. We have to do more to keep our own people safe before we just open the floodgates to any Tom, Dick and Harry that wants to come here. It is not worth the cost to our safety. It's not worth the cost to the taxpayer's purse. And in many respects, it is just not worth it anymore. We have welcomed so many people to this country, and enough is enough. Let's get into the details of the story. But first, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on any more news updates. So this alleged crime happened at Charing Cross Station in central London. I'm going to show you some of the details of what the court has heard. But first of all, I want you to see what this man's lawyer had to say about him being remanded in custody. So apparently he should have been given bail, according to his lawyer, because he's got depression, insomnia, and anxiety. Of course, not being found guilty, but if he is guilty, I would expect that the victim of this crime may suffer from those problems and bigger ones as a consequence of what has happened. So I'm sorry, I'm just not having it. Listen to this. He suffers from claustrophobia, which will naturally be a problem within the prison environment. He gets extremely anxious. I'm sorry, but I couldn't give less of a shit, if I'm being completely frank and honest with you. I'm sorry, if you're not safe to walk the streets of this country, I couldn't give less of a toss if you have got claustrophobia and anxiety. Fed up of this snowflake generation. Why is it that alleged criminals get treated better than victims? I've just had enough of it. I mean, Hadish Kabatu, who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Epping, he's just been given 500 quid to go back to Ethiopia, right? And by the way, the monthly salary in Ethiopia average is only 35 quid. He's got more than an annual salary in Ethiopia. He's absolutely loaded now in Ethiopian terms. What about money for the victim? Has she got anything? No. No, in fact, they didn't even tell her when this guy was on the loose. She was terrified to leave the home, not knowing if he'd come back to Epping because they didn't know where the hell he was in the worst manhunt ever. I mean, why? I'm fed up of it. Despite the criminal charges against him, the small boat migrant is said to be considering appealing his application for asylum, which has been thrown out last month. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if his asylum application failed the first time and then they see, the guy if he is found guilty, of course, as I say, it's an alleged crime, but let's say he were found guilty, I wouldn't be surprised if then suddenly his new asylum application gets approved, because of all of the trauma that he's been through, that from the claustrophobia of being in British prison. We probably can't possibly allow this man to go back to Egypt. Anyway, let's go through the main details of the story. So again, everything here is alleged. He is going back to the court in November. He's now remanded in custody. I'm just going to tell you what the court has heard. So this is in the GB News article today. A failed asylum seeker who entered the UK on a small boat used a translation app to threaten his victim before he raped her, a court has heard. Mustafa El-Bowi, 31, allegedly attacked a woman he has encountered at Charing Cross railway station in London in the early hours of September 20th. The Egyptian national who entered the country in June, having crossed the channel in a dinghy, is said to have been at the train station with friends from the taxpayer-funded Migrant hotel where he was staying. The victim is believed to have been trying to catch a train home after a work night out with colleagues. The woman allegedly asked the group of migrants what language they were speaking, at which point it is claimed that Mr. El-Bowi asked for her name and started to shout despite not being able to speak any English. When she attempted to leave in order to board her train, Mr. El-Bowi is said to have put his arm around her before leading her from the train station. It is understood the alleged attack took place on a nearby rooftop. Jesus. He stands accused of sexually assaulting her before he is said to have used a translation app on his phone to tell her, "I want to fuck you." That's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. The victim, who cannot be named, told police that the Egyptian man then ripped her clothes off and raped her in an attack which is said to have been caught by CCTV. The woman allegedly managed to escape by climbing over a wall and calling a friend for help. They then reported the attack at Charing Cross police station. Mr. El-Bowi appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court on Wednesday. I'm sick of it. Enough is enough. As I said, and I will reiterate, these crimes are alleged. This man has not been found guilty, but very clearly there is a trend going on of endless alleged crimes being committed by migrants. Let's just remind ourselves, today is small boat migrant raped woman in the heart of London after threatening through a translation app. That is what the court heard. What was it yesterday? Afghan asylum seeker jailed for brutal rape of vulnerable teenage girl in Scottish town. What was it the day before yesterday? Failed asylum seeker randomly stabbed dad of 3 to death in a bank while he was FaceTiming a friend. What was it before that? Oh, we find out that the suspect in the brutal triple stabbing in Hillingdon, where a 49-year-old dog walker was killed, we find out the suspect is an Afghan migrant. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. We need to stop these boats from coming, but Keir Starmer, who is a human rights lawyer, he will not do what is necessary. He will not leave the ECHR. I'm fully convinced. I mean, look at the shambles that has been just trying to send a few migrants back to France. All these human rights claims coming in, couldn't get people on the planes. I'm sick of it, okay? Enough is enough. We need to leave the ECHR, but very sadly, Starmer is not going to do it. So I think we're going to have a few more years of this absolute madness, and I hate to think of the number of people that will be raped and murdered as a consequence of the neglect of this issue over the next few years. Sick of it. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already.